After a long time we are recording this video, and in this video we are going to discuss about how to handle checkboxes with Playwright and Python. Okay, so now already we have seen how to handle elements and how to find the elements. Now we'll directly jump into checkboxes. So I'm not seeing anything on the screen in terms of source code, but always try to have a guess what the element is made of in the HTML. Okay, so when we say checkboxes, you should be in a position to assume a few things, like checkboxes will always have a type as a checkbox and the tag is input. This is a basic assumption. Even today's 90% of the checkboxes are made like this, like input as a tag and type as a checkbox. So based on this one, you should be able to assume a X path. Okay, if you ask me, it will be like / input square bracket at type checkbox. This is a basic assumption. In case if you are ever attending interviews, try to know it. Even before you see the source code, try to visualize how this checkbox is made. So 90% is it's made with input, and sometimes it could be made with other tags. Okay, so now let's open this page. Currently I'm using chercher.tech/practice/dropdown. You can take any web page for a practice which has a checkbox. So this is the checkbox that we are going to focus today. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to inspect it first. Okay, so if you can find an XPath, then not XPath, basically a locator for an element, then you can automate it in Playwright. Not just in a Playwright, even if you are using a Selenium, you can use it. Okay, I do not use any other thing for XPath or CSS, just we write it. Okay, now inspect the checkbox. So here, if you see, it is made of input and ID is something, class is something, and type is checkbox. Okay, so if you see not just this one, if you see any other place also, the checkbox is mostly made up of this thing. Okay, all right, so let's form the XPath. That is input, ID is check me, and type is checkbox. So should I write input / something like for example / input at type equal to checkbox. Okay, so now we found the checkbox. Is it the right way or using a ID is the right way? If you ask me, I prefer using ID rather than type as a checkbox, because even though we assume this is the XPath, that does not mean we have to use it, because prefer ID because most of the time developers try to give ID for similar kind of items, like whenever they create a checkbox, they'll try to create a particular ID or ID with something, ID hyphen some page name or something like that. So most of the time it will be unique, but you always make sure how many occurrences that you are getting. Check me. Okay, so this is the XPath for it. All right, now the next question is, now we are able to find the checkbox. Will it be always in the empty state? When you write an automation script, you always think what else state a particular thing can be. For example, here it is a checkbox, so it could be in two states, checked or unchecked. Okay, so what state it could be? So you always refresh the page and see it. Sometimes it will be based on cookies, it will be already checked. Some websites will do it just to remember the things, for example remember password and all. So in such cases, you make sure what is the state. Okay, so first this is an unchecked state, so what state we can make it into? A checked. Okay, so before that I want to see whether this checkbox is checked. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write give me a second. So this is a simple code that is basically we are importing a Playwright and then we are opening the browser and then opening a web page. So this is not the web page that we are looking for. We are looking for this web page. So let me copy it. All right, now we have it. Now we got it. So let's go for page.locator. Sorry, not this thing. So this is XPath, right? Sometimes let's say you have lost the XPath. Okay, press up and down arrows. Okay, that will bring you back the XPath that you have previously used, in case if the browser is not closed. Okay, so I pressed up arrow. I'm using Mac, so paste it, and now what can I do is check it. Okay, basically it will tick it. Okay, I'm going to add a sleep here of 4 seconds. This is just for purely educational purpose. This video is because here after checking it I want to show you guys whether it's checked or not. That's why I'm adding the sleep, but otherwise do not use this sleep. Preferably don't use it. Sometimes you cannot do anything. Okay, now let's run it. So it's running something else. Instead of that one, I want to run this one, find elements. Okay, you can have the file name as checkbox handling. Okay, now see, it is checked. All right, so by default it is not checked. At this particular point it checks and then it exits. This is how you can handle a check. Okay, what else I can do? So this is, you can ask a question that, yeah, this is an input, so by using this one you are able to check it. But let's think in this way, if the particular checkbox is not formed using the input, how do we handle it? Okay, so that is simple. Go with click. Okay, so for a moment's sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add sleep of 2 seconds here, so that we know that it is not previously checked. Okay, right, after 2 seconds it clicks and then it will exit out of the script after 4 seconds. Now it is checked. So this way, even if the checkbox is formed with the input or not with input, you will be able to handle in both things. Okay, with a click. But click is not preferable. Okay, if it is formed with the input and the type as a checkbox, always use a check. Okay, so here I am checking this checkbox, and then what I'm going to do is I want to uncheck it after 2 seconds. So how do we do it? That is also simple. Page dot locator, and I'm going to use, we can copy the same thing. Instead of a check, what we can make is uncheck. All right, so now what should happen is, first it goes into the page and it checks, and then it should uncheck the same. Okay, now let's run it. It should check now. Yeah, it should uncheck again. Yep. All right, so this is the second. And the third state, sometimes you might want to see whether a particular checkbox is checked or not. Here we are checking it and here unchecking it, but some cases you want to see the state, just the state. You don't want to perform anything, or you want to perform it based on its state. Like if it is already not checked, then check it. If it is checked, then ignore it, something like that. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to get the state. For that, again I'm going to use the same locator. Instead of a check, I'm going to see is checked. Okay, here is checked. Basically it will say a true or false. Okay, for that purpose I'm going to check is checked equal to, I'm going to copy it in a variable and print it. As of now I am not using any unit testing framework, so I can print it easily. So is it checked? So just I have added a F. Just pressing Control space will bring it up, the F. Okay, once you have the thing. Now Now you can see we are just going to print it and then sleep and then do it. Now if I want it to do it again at the end or after checking it, I can do it. Okay, let's run it. So first time it should not be checked, and then we are checking it again. We are verifying whether we have already ticked that particular checkbox or not, and then we are unchecking it. All right, run it. So first we see it is checked equal to false because we have not checked when we open the page. So we open the page and we see the state, and then we check it, and then again we check the state. It is true, right? Again we uncheck it and we end the script. Okay, so this is the basic thing. Okay, now let's discuss a little more complexity here. It's not complexity, kind of a added information. Yeah, some web pages, if you have seen the login pages, especially if you tick it like remember my password or something, or remember me, first you tick it and you go log in and log out. Again next time if you come, it will remember your username and password, also the tick mark. Okay, let's think it this way. First time what happened, you went to that page, you have gone to the page and you have filled the username and password, and now you ticked it, right? Correct. Think of the second one. When you open the page, it by default is ticked, okay, because previously you have asked it to remember. So now it's again it's ticked by default. So how do you handle it? Okay, for example, if you are going to use a dot click, for example, okay, so what happens is first time you open it, okay, it will tick it. The second time if you open it, it is already ticked, and if you click it again, what happens is it will uncheck it, right? So this kind of a situations comes in other automation tools, but with respect to Playwright, using this dot check, okay, using this dot check will check it only if it is unchecked, but if it is already checked, then this will not perform the operation and it will move on from it. Okay, so if already it matches the state, then it will not do anything, it will proceed further. Same goes to unchecked, same goes to unchecked. Okay, now think of it this way. This check and uncheck both are applicable on the input field with the type of a checkbox. Let's think of it that checkbox is made of something else. So here you have to use only the click method. How are you going to do it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is we are going to enable that scenario, but I'm going to push this code down so that when I upload the files you can use that code. Okay, all right. Now think, as of now I do not have a custom checkbox, but I'm going to use it as if it is a custom checkbox. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it. Okay, and next time if it is already clicked, it is unchecked. So first what I have to do is I have to get the state of that particular checkbox. So use is checked. Okay, now we are going to store it. Yes, now some of you might be in a little more advanced in the checkboxes or something, or you might have used other tools. Now you will have a doubt. You said input and its type is not a checkbox. For example, type is not checkbox. How come this will work for you? You may have this question. How come this will work? So I don't know whether it will work or not. So always you try to use this thing, and based on that result you can improvise. Okay, if it is not giving you a result, then you can go for the second option. All right, so here I'm going to use it is checked. All right, now once you check it, then we have to see if is checked equal to true. Okay, if it is equal to true, then what we have to do is we have to ignore it. So that means check for the not true. If it is not true, okay, then you check it. Rather than, see, first we were checking is true, then what we have to do is, if it is already checked, we have to write pass, and else if it is not checked, then what we have to do is you something like this, take it and dot click it. Okay, so this is what we are doing, right? So now this particular block is kind of a waste. So when you have this kind of situation, always try to change the condition here. So instead of checking for is true, I'm going to check for not true. Okay, now it will see first here, it will check the state whether it's checked or not. If it is not checked, it will come here and it will check it. Okay, I'm going to use the sleep again here. Let me run it. If it is not checked, it will check. Okay, see, it checked. So this is one way. Okay, now think of this thing here. You see this condition, writing this condition, this kind of a condition is not good way of coding. Okay, so true, right? Basically is checked, either it's going to be a true or false. In such cases, don't compare it with the boolean. Okay, just remove it. Okay, is checked, if it is checked, it will come and check. But what we need, if it is not checked, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add not here. Okay, so it will see this will false because it is not checked, and false, not of a false is true. Then it will come here and it will click. Okay, this is the way of doing it. Now think of this way. Previously, as I explained, this is not formed using a standard checkbox. It is a custom one. How do you handle it? So when you have this kind of a checkbox, when you tick it, something will be enabled in here or here. You need to notice what is it. Okay, something like is checked inside, it might become true or false based on what operations you are doing. So you have to get that particular attribute, and then based on that you have to get it. If based on that one, what you have to do is you have to decide whether you are going to check it or not check it. Okay, that's how it should be for a standard. Now for non-standard operations, non-standard checkbox, for this one, yeah, this will be fine. All right, fine. So let's summarize this thing. We can check a checkbox using dot check. We can uncheck a checkbox using dot uncheck. These two operations will be performed irrespective of the state. For example, if a checkbox is checked, then using a dot check function will not uncheck it. It will just leave it as it is. So end result of these functions to make sure that it is checked for a check function, unchecked for a uncheck function. Okay, is checked is basically used for checking the state whether it's checked or not. All right, fine. That's for this lecture, and we'll see in the future lectures. Thank you.